Imagine this. You're knee-deep in the raw ache of loss, standing graveside with the chill of freshly turned earth clinging to your skin like a bad memory. The faint scent of rain-soaked soil mingling with the distant hum of mourners' whispers, and your phone lights up with a video that rips through your soul. The roar of machinery tearing apart something sacred, something built by blood and sweat. The vibrations echoing in your chest, as if the ground itself is grieving alongside you. And in that moment, you realize the world doesn't pause for grief. It charges ahead, bulldozing everything in its path, leaving you to question how far one must go to reclaim what's been stolen. And that's exactly what happened to me when they demolished my great-grandfather's bridge right as I was laying him to rest. My name is Elias Hawthorne, a 45-year-old carpenter who spent his life shaping wood into vessels that dance on water, my hands forever marked with the grit of sawdust and the sting of varnish. Each scar a silent story of late nights bent over blueprints under flickering workshop lights. And this story, it's not just about a piece of timber spanning a lake. It's about family legacy, about standing firm when everything's crumbling around you, about how one act of destruction ignited a fire that would consume a multi-million-dollar empire built on lies and greed, forcing me to confront whether silence in the face of tyranny is survival or surrender. It all started back in 1952, when my great-grandfather, Samuel Hawthorne, a man with calluses tougher than leather and a vision sharper than any blade, scooped up a 12-acre island in Silverbrook Lake for next to nothing, a handshake deal that turned a forgotten speck of land into our family's haven. He built it all himself. The cozy cabin that whispered stories of simpler times with its creaking floors and wood smoke hearth. The workshop where echoes of hammers still linger amid shelves of aged tools passed down like heirlooms. And that bridge, oh that bridge, hand-hewn from ancient oaks, every beam a testament to his unyielding spirit, weathered by storms yet standing defiant. The place where I first dangled a fishing line as a wide-eyed kid, feeling the tug of a catch that taught me patience, where my dad dropped to one knee under a starry sky to ask for my mom's hand, their laughter carried on the breeze, where generations crossed over to touch paradise, only for it to become our cage, a barrier now turned into a symbol of isolation that made me ponder how fragile connections truly are. But then came Victoria Sterling, the iron-fisted president of the Riverside Heights Association, rolling in 3 years ago with her city slicker fortune and a clipboard full of mandates. Picture her, starched slacks pressed to perfection, a gleaming black Mercedes with a plaque screaming standards first, nails polished like weapons, spitting legalese over her latte orders, her eyes scanning the horizon with the cold calculation of a predator sizing up prey. She descended on our quiet fishing community like a storm cloud, turning neighborly waves into wary glances, her obsession fixed on our bridge, calling it a blight, a danger to her pristine vision. Even though it predated every rule, she wielded like a scepter, her patrols on the water becoming a ritual of intimidation that left ripples of unease in their wake. The timing was cruel, poetic in its viciousness. Samuel passed at 96, slipping away quietly on a Tuesday, his final breath a whisper of wind through the pines. The funeral drew half the town to honor the legend who'd crafted boats for every angler around, their stories shared in hushed tones under overcast skies. But while we mourned, while I tossed that final handful of dirt, feeling the weight of lineage on my shoulders, her crew struck at dawn the next day, chainsaws howling through the mist, bulldozers growling like beasts, reducing 70 years of history to splinters bobbing on the waves, the diesel fumes choking the air like a mocking eulogy, shards of oak catching the light as they drifted, each one a fragment of memory lost. And by the time I raced back, heart pounding, fists clenched, sweat mixing with tears, it was gone, our island isolated, accessible only by boat, while her $4 million Prestige Shores resort gleamed smugly across the shore, her sipping victory from a gilded glass, unaware that she'd just unlocked a vault of secrets worth far more than sentiment, prompting me to ask myself, and now you, what invisible chains bind us to our past, and how do we break them without losing who we are? What would you do, staring at the wreckage of your roots, feeling the isolation sink in like quicksand, the once familiar shoreline now a taunting divide, knowing this wasn't just about aesthetics. It was a calculated strike to claim what wasn't hers. And as I stood there, the lake lapping at my boots, a quiet rage building, waves whispering accusations, I wondered if this was the end, or the spark that would burn it all down, igniting a quest for truth that tested every fiber of my resolve. The fallout hit hard. My grandmother Eleanor, 89 and fierce as ever, couldn't reach Samuel's gravesite without risking the choppy waters, too fragile for the boat rides that now defined our exile. Her hands trembling as she gazed across the expanse, memories flooding back like tides. My workshop flooded with unchecked leaks, deliveries stalled, tools rusting in the damp, our property's worth plummeting as buyers balked at the hassle. Whispers of cursed island circulating in town, but worse was the loneliness, cut off from the world we'd nurtured, watching outsiders revel in the waters our family had cherished, their laughter a distant echo that stung like salt in a wound. And that's when I spotted the surveyors, shadowy figures in unmarked crafts, probing depths near the old bridge site, their tools glinting under the sun, notebooks filled with cryptic notes. And when I confronted Victoria during her smug courtesy call, her boat idling with a low rumble, she just smirked about prime potential and optimal utilization, pieces clicking into place, hinting at a darker scheme brewing beneath the surface, layers of deception that made me question how deep corruption can run before it surfaces. The harassment escalated like a tide rising, violation notices piling up a week later. My boat shed suddenly eyesores, dragging down her precious values. Never mind they'd stood unchallenged for decades, visible only from her resort's elite terraces where guests shelled out fortunes for views, their complaints scripted like lines in a play, then the shutdown demands, accusing us of encroaching on fishing spots that Samuel had claimed long ago, invoking some obscure, ongoing dominion clause to seize exclusive lake control, threatening $5,000 daily penalties for any vessel we dared launch. From Eleanor's gentle cruiser to the kayak my nephew paddled for solace, the bile rose in my throat. This woman aiming to privatize our heritage, turn it into her exclusive playground, her edicts arriving like arrows in the mail, each one piercing the quiet life we'd known. But growing up among builders taught me resilience. Every knot untied reveals a path, and while she printed her edicts, I rummaged through Eleanor's attic, dust motes dancing in the beam of my flashlight, cobwebs brushing my face like forgotten regrets, unearthing a faded envelope labeled Lake Holdings, Vital. Inside, Samuel's meticulous sketches, maps drawn with ink that time couldn't fade, lines curving like the lake's own shores, leading me to the county archives where Clerk Martha, who remembered Samuel's kindness with a warm smile and stories of his generosity, unearthed the 1952 grants, and there it was, a revelation that sent my pulse racing. He hadn't merely acquired land. He'd secured the subsurface and aquatic entitlements for the whole basin, forgotten treasures amid our focus on craftsmanship over contracts, still rightfully mine. Every ripple, every anchor dropped, every splash in her resort's domain, all on my turf without consent, a hidden power that shifted the balance, making me reflect on how often we overlook the foundations beneath us. Even sweeter, the deed enshrined an eternal pathway for the bridge, unbreakable by any association or decree, a shield against her tyranny, etched in language that time had preserved like amber. And here's a tip for you. Always scour those ancient records. They often eclipse modern edicts with ironclad precedents, their yellowed pages holding secrets that can topple empires built on sand. Emboldened, I dusted off Samuel's blueprints, hammers ringing across the lake like a defiance anthem, each strike fueled by ancestral fury, the rhythm syncing with my heartbeat, with chips flying like sparks of rebellion, rebuilding what she'd raised. But Victoria countered swift, striding up with a deputy in tow, Deputy Ramirez, looking reluctant as hell, his boots scuffing the dock as he shifted uncomfortably, accusing me of ecological sabotage, halting work amid probes, then filming me like a spectacle, narrating her scripted outrage. Behold the face of habitat ruin, her scent clashing with the fresh lumber, a cloying perfume that turned my stomach, and that night her online smear painted me as a villain, dramatic shots warning of dire precedents, edited with filters that distorted reality. Little knowing I'd been capturing it all, every menace, every badge flash, turning her theater into my arsenal. Hidden cameras whirring like silent allies. The twist sharpened when I formalized my claims at the county, uncovering that asserting those aquatic holdings meant I could levy fees for usage. Every mooring in her marina, every dip in her beaches, every fountain spray, all accruing back to me. Calculations mounting like a storm gathering force. She'd armed for a skirmish with her bylaws, but I brought the heavy artillery of legacy law. And as her digital crusade rallied petitions depicting us as polluters, rumors swirling like venom. Through coffee shop chats and market stalls, tax dodges, illicit ops, her planted article in the local rag screaming habitat threats loom. Zeroing on phantom harms while ignoring our history. Its ink fresh and accusatory. She lobbied officials for barriers that would entomb our rights forever. Backroom deals whispered in shadowed corridors. Yet, I flipped the script, hosting gratis repair sessions on weekends. Coffee steaming as neighbors tinkered with engines. Bonds forging over shared tales. Laughter breaking the tension like sunlight through clouds, stronger than any decree. And at the Heritage Gathering, I unveiled albums chronicling the lake's evolution from humble waters to her gilded cage, faded photos capturing children splashing in unspoiled shallows. That's where I crossed paths with Lucas Mendoza, a seasoned ecologist. Retired to these shores, his folders bulging with metrics that shredded her facade. Prepare to be stunned. He grinned. Charts revealing oxygen plunges by 30%, murkier depths that hid dying flora, fish stocks halved since her grand unveiling, and archival images proving our bridge era boasted purer waters, our modest footprint gentler than her sprawling invasion. Data points glowing like indictments under the meeting hall's fluorescent lights. Tip for the wise, those impact assessments are open books. Verify if grand promises hold water, or in this case, don't. Their fine print often hiding the cracks, and with that, I allied with green advocates, pitching habitat revivals around our span, transforming her terrorism slur into a celebrated stewardship drive, proposals blooming like wildflowers along the banks. The council session was electric, packed with her backers in tailored suits versus our rooted kin, her slick presentation touting valuations and vistas, slides flashing with glossy renders. But I countered with lineage and hard science, the silence thick as I declared. Victoria preaches safeguarding, yet we've guarded this since before her arrival, data in hand. Lucas revelations landing like blows. Guides lamenting lost halls with voices cracked from years on the water, society elders. Recounting coerced sales, their eyes misty with regret. Then her unraveling. Exploding in fury, branding us backwoods relics. Insulting the very fabric of our town, the hush damning. Her mask slipped, exposing raw contempt that hung in the air like smoke. The panel hedged, deferring for reviews, freezing my build. But her outburst echoed, revealing it wasn't ecology, it was erasure of folks like us from her utopia, and humiliation only fueled her venom. Liens slamming down for fabricated debts, $12,000 in phantom penalties for non-issues. Paper thick with seals, but thin on truth. Threats of ruin looming like dark clouds. Then her benevolent bid. $50,000 for our slice. A pittance. Her counsel framing it as mercy amid entanglements. The fear. Sharp, tasting like rust. Eyeing Eleanor's frail form as she clutched old photos. Questioning if we'd forfeit our soul's anchor to this interloper. The offer dangling like a poisoned apple. No more retreating. I enlisted Harrison Brooks, a wry eco-attorney hooked on local base, but sharper on statutes, his gaze dissecting her threats like specimens under a microscope. She's barking up rights that predate her empire. He chuckled, unmasking our non-membership in her group, exclusions in their charter shielding our relics, and the bombshell, her demolition hinged on a phantom assessment, the signer never on site. Fraud ripe for felony counts, his files stacking like evidence in a courtroom drama. Nugget of wisdom. Pre-existing parcels often evade forced enrollment. Cross-check dates against charters. Their timelines revealing hidden truths. Our retaliation suit demanded $500,000 for wreckage and torment. Injunctions to cease her siege. And at the next assembly, I thanked her mockingly for the rights lesson. Unveiling deeds, exemptions, forgeries, the chamber igniting as kin shared parallel woes. Their voices rising in a chorus of shared pain, her retort quivering. Age doesn't excuse anarchy, but Harrison dropped the hammer. Falsified liens? That's FBI territory. Her pallor priceless, murmurs swelling into a chorus of reckoning. Then the midnight epiphany. Harrison's email piercing the dark as I planed wood by lantern glow, the shavings curling like secrets unveiled, unraveling her permits web through agencies and boards, exposing the resort's foundation on safeguarded marshes, approvals for modest huts twisted into year-round excess, septic overloads spewing toxins undetected, violations galore, Lucas data now crystal, her crimes poisoning what we'd preserved, and the clincher, her docks and drains squatting on my basin bed, 3 years of illicit profits on my domain. The reversal dizzying, from prey to proprietor poised to yank the plug, numbers crunching in my mind like gears shifting. Emails via FOIA bared her awareness, ignored warnings scrawled in red ink, silenced dissent with veiled threats. The bridges fall a veil to hide her sins, corruption sprawling like roots through bureaucracy, from payoffs to forgeries. And as I absorbed it, tools idle, the lake murmuring outside my window, I grasped Samuel's bequest wasn't mere wood, but guardianship for eternity. This transcended our clan, honoring the displaced, the silenced, her miscalculation assuming we'd fold under pressure, but builders discern flaws, and hers gaped wide, inviting the question of how blindness to consequences dooms the ambitious. We convened at dawn, Harrison with battle-worn files, Lucas armed with probes, Eleanor bearing snapshots of her hands steady despite the years, and Riley Evergreen, the Gazette's firebrand editor, hungry to expose the rot that claimed her kin's livelihood. Owning the scene? Novel, Harrison quipped, plotting meticulously, round-the-clock surveillance logging every breach, sensors beeping in the night. I invoked rents retroactively, $2,000 monthly for births, clauses shielding me from her messes. Nugget here. Aquatics often sever from surface deeds, mine golden, their value compounding like interest on a debt long overdue. Eleanor's images contrasted purity past with present blight, sepia tones clashing with modern decay. Riley crafting a narrative primed for virality, headlines drafting in her notebook, Harrison stacking indictments under acts and codes, sinking strikes for her Labor Day gala, announcing swells amid investors, officials, press, letting her bask before the deluge from enforcers galore. And as we schemed, I erected monitoring buoys, time-lapse capturing her infractions, rebuilding the bridge. Under scrutiny, each plank a vow renewed, the aroma of resin blending with resolve. This wasn't vengeance, it was restoration, a careful unraveling of threads she'd knotted too tightly. She sensed the noose tightening, whispers halting in halls, her PI slinking about, snapping shots, tailing me, as unsubtle as a chainsaw at midnight, his footsteps echoing in the quiet streets. Then sabotage, my shop ravaged, heirloom tools shattered like fragile dreams, Inspector Kowalski citing hazards with shaky hands, fees mounting to cripple, the debris a metaphor for her chaos. Rumors festering like weeds through coffee shop chats and market stalls, narcotics, evasions, turning allies. Wary, her poison seeping into the community's veins, but her bribe to Deputy Ramirez for condemnation backfiring when he, a childhood fishing pal of Dad's, delivered the envelope as proof, his loyalty a beacon in the murk. But her nadir, staging a toxin dump near Samuel's Rest, framing hazard to quarantine us, her hazmat thugs caught on my cams pouring filth, the acrid smell lingering long after, the irony exquisite, her ploy birthing real crimes under lenses, EPA swooping in with sirens blaring, her desperation our windfall, exposing the lengths to which fear drives the cornered. Nugget, private surveillance lawful, footage fells falsehoods, my platforms hummed with data, bridge nearing finish, symbol of endurance, yet doubt gnawed, risks towering like waves in a gale, but evidence armored us. And with weeks ticking, her bribes surfaced, $300,000 to vanish, veiled threats on Eleanor, I broadcast refusal, her botched social blitz exposed as fraud, stock faces and sham locales unmasked by savvy locals, Eleanor's rebuttal video exploding, swaying tides with her timeless wisdom captured on screen. Then her arrest gambit, deputies cuffing me mid-build on Trump charges, Cell's bleak chill amplifying fears, the walls closing in like her schemes. But outside, Harrison wielded writs, Lucas filmed, Riley streamed live, virality surging, feds tuning in, unraveling her web thread by thread. Protection tip, record badges, corruption flees light, charges evaporated amid probes, her machine crumbling like a house of cards in the wind. In crossing my revived bridge at dusk, solid underfoot, I tasted triumph laced with peril's echo. We bared the beast, families empowered to reclaim their narratives. The gala dawned idyllic, sun-kissed waves mocking her facade, pavilion aglow with elites, her touting expansions from the stage, views framing my defiant span. I entered with brigade, Eleanor resolute in rear, briefcase heavy with doom, interrupting her boast of cleared paths, unveiling deeds, murmurs cresting like waves, Harrison dismantling her with fraud exposes, Lucas projecting damning graphs, agents storming, cuffing her amid chaos, and my finale, evicting her ops from my depths, live. Feed amplifying to masses, her shrieks lost in demands for refunds, probes launching like arrows. She faced cascades of suits, prison looming at 8 years, resort auction to greens and locals, reborn as Samuel Hawthorne Preserve, suites to labs, docks to learning, Eleanor touring till her peaceful pass on the bridge, sunset her farewell, painting the sky in hues of closure, our precedent aiding dozens, foundation granting aid, scholarships blooming, lake rebounding, fish thriving, birds nesting in restored nooks, my shop a mentorship hub, the bridge a pilgrimage site, victories echoing, loons calls returned, generations secured. And as I stand here now, mist lifting, coffee steaming, the woods grain a map of resilience. I know some battles forge futures, greed's empires fall, communities heal. But tell me, was this justice served, or vigilante overreach? Where do we draw lines on rightful retribution, on defending heritage against progress's blade, on ethics when law bends to power? Drop your thoughts, because these stories aren't just mine, they're ours, and the fight never truly ends. Now, having journeyed through this deepened tale, what new insights emerge for you about the interplay of memory, power, and perseverance? How might expanding details like these alter your perspective on real-world conflicts?